Hello, my name is Anthony Wall. This is the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I've recorded interagencies since I was a kid, since everyone was a kid, before our founders were born. There's a breaching method clearer than day, entrenched, and how the differences of guilt with it are manifest the way it knew it would be since before religious messages were born. This is more probable and practical. There are proofs that, there are things that we learned through the breaching method about American history. And they have the names of the people, the sciences are being used to sense for the breaching method, self-value collusion /S, replacing what our plural founders had declassified with James Madison about why and how not to entertain people, pretending it's debatable that the only founder that we know the name of is James Madison. But we do know that there were other plural founders because they counter-extorted people at key locations. And there were even rules with even things like slavery, things against all women, things against all natives against each other, because all the ground was tactically denatured. Everyone was already apart from what was in the original education at countries A through Z. And it knew that once it forced collusion /S with itself that no one wanted long enough, more and more, in other words, the quality of fact-sheeping nature becomes criminal insidiousness / hyper-criminal insidiousness. I'm not even a lawyer. There is a Trantolo in Trantolo who has a collusion /S with interbranch of foreign families, with wire crime acts and methods, and mail crime acts and methods that the interbranch haven't had, where and how they are and have been used remotely since they were child abused as kids. It is recorded that people are from the Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts, and the Connecticut District Court had organized crimes involved with their campuses when they were kids. And they have their kids involved too, with proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, involved a whole bunch of different natures of organized crimes at the same time. And a bunch of fakes when people say things. Oh, they made up a whole bunch of fake ties to me too. When I caught them with the principal child abuser, they still have been hiding what I caught then and now. And they have intersciences. They're making leaks. This is how they make leaks too, not just to Americans and to foreign, at countries A through Z. They're making it to the hyper-foreign. They're pretending that it's debatable. Even George Washington, when I was supposed to, he told that we're supposed to be honest about his extortion. It would have brought up how James Madison's plan and plural founders that we don't know the names of had to counter-extort everybody. At the founding locations, they have other communicated for those founding locations. At Webb House in Old Weathersfield, where George Washington had to come to counter-extort. Right? Why have to counter-extort? Because it was against the law. /S, overt criminal enterprises rules that were not even on the books. Private ones, international companies not in the books, but they spoken to the people, demonstrated everyone's indifference, how they speak about women. This is a rat trap that knew that it's going to, nature itself is going to demonstrate everyone's hyper-foreign is involved with the syntax of people A through Z, blaming other things, others or selves, for what it costs and keeps. Instead, it shows the collusion /S that no one wanted until it was self-value collusion /S. In other words, it shows that. Uses them remotely, showing them they have to hide what they're actually value adds now, what already happened, and how to get away with it, per its use of location /S, everywhere the species body is, a perfected use of it. England doesn't even remember the history of English. Scott Ritter, good people are evil. And they want to go into a nature debate where they can't defend that without using knowledge of good and evil out of sequence. In other words, the reason Russia and America, we are now tactically united and tactically divided, tactical ulterior from how nature shows us the human species body as unity of individual bodies. and it generating all group differences like male and female, two eyes. But like male and female, it's generating it. That's a lot different than some crazy loop job people with all kinds of their differences and other people's differences at Hartford Hospital. A bunch of people there have collusions with the FBI director Robert Luskin and with various courts personally and professionally and military used remotely criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. The FBI is worse than criminally incompetence regarding what James Madison said. So how are they going to appreciate Marbury versus Madison? How are they going to defend us? They have collusion /us with child abusers, leaders, and kids. And this Perone family will tell you when you ask them properly. They're involved with identities, theft, fraud, slanders with me, with a Violet family and other people with the name Corone too. I said and with places intercities. I never saw them on a Wethersfield campus in my life, the Corone brothers. And a Mark Violet, they tried there, and with a former mayor Gold and other mayors in conjunctions to them, involved with untimely deaths, years apart, brought up at the same time again. People involved with body dumping spots, years apart too, brought up at the same time. And these are totally different body dumping spots and reported murders. And there are different narratives regarding the body dumping spot. And this is also people with Facebook, with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court and our Wethersfield Police and other campuses. They have collusions, interagencies, changing and faking digital evidences, hiding them, obfuscating them as collusion /us with all nature of crime scenes, with the whiting forensics, increasingly collusions with a Phil Cololo too, with police that switch names, forge names, and confess they make confessions about putting multiple falsified police reports for the same police report, but they never give anyone a police report that's anything real. They just put a charge and or a charge and some fake thing on there, and they put they're leaving out the other names and they're switching names, so there's no record that's legitimate, and that is used to use them in other cases. Even cases with all ages and natures of people charged for crimes. They have collusions with the crime scenes. They have collusions with the databases of the campuses. They're changing and faking everything that is and just faking things. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. As the breaching method knew that nature would demonstrate, the names of the people of the sciences have had collusion /s. Forgiveness is to show how it's recorded. That's why you guys can't respond for what I caught them doing with people next to the campuses I went in the city. These are the same people next to campuses, intercities, involved with predicate acts on my street from other areas, planting evidences in collusion /s with the ones interbranch switching names. This is hyper-evidential. We have black people as whites of eyes. It's about relativity /hyper-relativity. People say that that's theory. That's also hyper-evidential. It comes with demonstration /s with the same thing. That's why we need to get those people on paper. Psychiatry is worse than criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not even a doctor either. This is recorded. Get me off of fake conversations with a Leahy family. Hartford Hospital has a Leahy family involved with a bunch of people, with a Brian Silver, with the Connecticut District Court, and with New Britain Superior Court, involved with some sexual medical offenders of kids, and identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, fake, and motivation screening. These are also people with interreligious spots and interreligious differences, intercultural. On the Facebook with some black KKK, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, and they have their little kids on Facebook with identity theft, fraud, slander. They took my Facebook pages. People were confirming things. After people confirm things to me, then they do little tricks and lie about why they took it. And Facebook itself has people personally involved with this, and since before they were Facebook. And this is inter and intra campuses. Oh, this is the great campus. You guys are just repeating things that a breaching method taught you to teach. Things that our founders taught us to look. They're sensing for the breaching method. This will change when you guys read our founders proper. James Madison and our founders plural directed us. Understand. People who are pretending that it's debatable. Oh, Thomas Jefferson was the draft of the Constitution. Maybe he was a founder. They put all the records were criminally foreign influence. Everyone had to hide their roles with James Madison's plan. And we know that now. But instead, we had the syntax that they were forced to pretend was their motives. Oh, because it was against the T-tax. There was slavery entrenched, northern colonies and southern colonies. So you guys have miscorrelation because you can't afford the answers that nature showed. The ancients and the breaching method. That plays you clearer than day. Sensing for the breaching method, you guys can't make legal. You guys, they're making confessions to you where they're speaking in the news about what's going on with the campuses. They're telling you they're lying to you and their motives, but they're lying to you about their motives. They're saying, like, in other words, you can't see that there's all kind of lies and delusions too, tactical delusions relative here too, at the campuses. So a Leahy family is involved with a bunch of people. With the Harper Hospital has an institute of living on their campus, and triages across the country, and inter and intra-cities. They have collusion / with the agencies. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. You guys went into jobs. You're going to speak about law. The breaching method knew you would. Self-added collusion / with the predicate acts with facts method way worse than things you frame little kids for. You guys are only capable of it because you're relative to how you were child abused. So there's a Harris family involved with the DeMoro family and his neighbors, involved with intercities with some medical and sexual offenders of kids, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people involved with violence on my street. And they brought a Ray Claw, and Joe DeMoro will tell you, they brought in a Napolitano. I don't know if he's related to people related to Judge Napolitano, but these are also people who brought in all sides of and at the Wethersfield Community Center. I only saw them there real fast one time. Joe DeMoro and Ray Claw. And they brought up a tunnel house. It's gone. It used to be near where that reported body dumping, serial killer's body dumping spot was. And that serial killer has roles with a blue van. I don't know. Marco may have seen that. I was only nice to him. He was only nice to me. Like real quick exceptions of me seeing him. See, these are people tied to a Mr. Abruzzi, and like inter and intracultural. These are Italian people involved with identity thefts, inter and intracultural. Collusion / with the breaching methods rolls with it. American history is about a breaching method that was entrenched as an identity theft, fraud, slander method against every human being of the human species body, of individual bodies, with all group differences, with an individual being generating that. An individual identity of value progression that is neither our species body nor the other species bodies, while it is all things anyway. Nature's identity, hyper invisible but still discernible. And we are shown we are distinct from other species bodies, but we are non-distinct from them. Two eyes. We long water and gases with the right mixture. Apparently, plants' roots need oxygen too, not just carbon monoxide and dioxide. And we need the right mixture is what makes us. So we have a conversation about positive and negative, including the difference between criminal insidiousness natures of positive, like criminal and insidiousness natures of peace. These breaching methods show that the peace that was in the syntax of people A through Z who came through campuses A through Z, they need to hide what they actually value it as. That value of peace. That nature of integrity, what it's reliant upon. These are systems tactical. Everything we hunger and thirst so nature can show us to pollute the whole ocean and call that intelligence while it's from a base that was where the suburbs were designed, forced to unfold. by the way that was designed to keep us measured and maintained from abroad before America's founders were born. Tactically denatured to be a landscape theater, reliant upon food resources from other locations, not just because of that, because it's filtered through other things too, and syntax. Now the jobs and the A through Z differences as systems all tactical ulterior from distinctions by the human species body of individual bodies. We are shown that birds have two eyes. They thirst. They hunger. Even the fish have eyes that look just like human eyes. In three parts of time are bound. There is the extent of the past that is hyper invisible, but still discernible. We know to an extent it was. And we know to an extent there was even more greater than and more finite than that we don't know about, but we know that was too. That's two parts of the past. That comes with another. Because you know that's value, it's increasing value with it was true always. True always. Relative to its system and its conjunction to our syntax. Letting us know if we leave out an exception, our exceptions being faked, planted online, and at location /s, because so they could hide criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents, and exceptions. Exception relative, because that's what was done. That's recorded too, various ways. The breaching method uses that to have the names of the people, the sciences, for example, even the law. Use them remotely. It already used names on all sides of criminal and of civil cases, their lawyers, their family members, their neighbors. The same thing with the interbranch and the intelligence. And those are families that are shared at and next to campuses with all the countries and the names in the news. They are shared here and there. And they have natures of industries that are sick here and there. That are more and more shown by the breaching method they can't afford to have discerned. Short words as they are proper by our founders, for example, with the names of the people of American history. Pretending that's debatable, they have replaced what our founders declassified for us to understand about why and how they plural. They couldn't even let us know their names. And demonstrably so we could catch what's recorded now. The leaders and the names of the people, the sciences, in their defenses, some foreign influence abuse too, because they're teaching through our campuses that our founders owned slaves. We don't even know who our founders were. And James Madison, the one founder we know the name of, he detailed about how and why. If anyone spoke about all those different subjects or instances that they kept separate, they were sensed and it was adapted to it, even if they were a majority of people, even if they were everybody. The only thing they could do was counter-extort to an extent and give nature, tell us to get the Constitution unabridged. That's a policy. The Constitution unabridged is a policy. We have criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, wrought readings of statutes and precedents, whiting forensics as collusion /s, replacing what's actually recorded at campuses 24/7 recorded, and using that because no one's checking. They're putting fake ties, fake natures of ties to people as collusion /s with predicate acts with facts. We know that they communicated to us when we were kids, but we understand why and how they blame how the people of the sciences get it wrong. Because we know they don't want, there's this, and we know these things about this, with this person was there. James Madison, our founders, you guys can't even get that right. You can't get anything right. See Marbury versus Madison. Real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. Judge Napolitano said there's an amendment that says that we have rights that are too numerous to have to list them. And nature itself demonstrates this. But we are prevented free speech. And it is collusion /s that are measured and maintained with the differences of guilt too. Because the breaching method knew that would be. Because there is a different identity of simultaneous nature. There is a different identity of volume science that is no other volume. But while it is all volumes at the same time, which is one of the ways, it is discernible. Even, that's how it is too. Generating totally different individual species bodies made up of individual bodies and group differences like male, female. And why and how there are two. It has relativity to this. The parts of it has three distinct, like a cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall /S. And the complete identity coming through the parts of the identity, because the rest of nature's complete identity is inseparable from its individual finite parts, where it is making more of its identity a forever nature through temporary /lasting space nature. And this is how English was revealed to be taught before the sciences became criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions raw, in defenses of themselves. But then more and more shown they can't afford to have discerned how remote use /S of their syntax and of their nature was and is being and has been exploited at location /S, also therefore in physics increasingly, and with difference /S therefore with names. Use is appreciation. Non-use is appreciation. In other words, we have been systems tactical ulterior from the one that shows us and should have shown that experts and names on the law had obligations to note the difference between people speaking about, oh, we need peace, while they're speaking about criminal and citizen's natures of peace. It is more probable that ancient pantheism was about this volume science, and English was revealed to be taught this way. The people of England don't remember the history of English because the same breaching method that was entrenched in northern colonies and southern colonies, even with slavery, even with laws against all women. In other words, what enabled that? That torture, extortion, slavery method we're supposed to address by allowing people to have free speech. Part of the reasons you got away with pretending that there is free speech is by pretending things are debatable that are not. And forcing debates to sense for the breaching method, which then adapts. The World Trade Center attack was effectively used to adapt. Where and how people with the World Trade Center and the court next to it and other countries and our own have shared roles with the campuses interstates and internationally, but also hyper-internationally, being and having been used remotely. This is why, in other words, too, ever since the World Trade Center attack, now everyone's using words like extremism and radical. And no tactical ulterior how they used radical back in the day. But radical, man. This is a breaching method that knew that each age and nature of campus, each age and nature of humanity would be shown distinctly, but non-distinctly. There's a breaching method involved here. It designed only allow collusion. It designed natures of integrity, natures of industries reliant upon having been self-valued syntax and collusion /S are the names of the people, the sciences of the past. This breaching method uses and used names remotely on all sides of criminal, civil, and the interbranch at the same time, and the news at the same time. How they were motivated to it is recorded. You guys won't even allow people that were, and then you go fishing too. Where someone tells me, I wasn't in the court next. I was an observer next to the World Trade Center towers, the morning of the attack, in the Ninth Circuit Court. That court had its identity used remotely by a sequence shift. They post-dated legal papers that had already been time-stamped at the court to make them appear late to the Ninth Circuit Court panel of judges. And names on both sides of that case in the court were used remotely too, before and after that, by people on up the Connecticut's Central Connecticut State University, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and foreign and domestic military and other agencies and police forms inter and intra cities, and with people next to the body dumping spot of the serial killer, the reported serial killer. Him in his prison at Sandy Hook. They have collusions with him, his doctors, the principal child abuser. That prison was used to force the principal child abuser not told on, and collusion /S with them in their relative delusions. And these are like international families together here and there. They speak about, oh, well, this is what we agree. How are they going to agree? No, how are they going to be the ones speaking about nuclear weapons? They're using their knowledge of good and evil to get over on us. This is about correlation / hyper-correlation, black pupils, whites of eyes is. While the other fish have it, 2 eyes. The birds, the bear, the sharks, they have black pupils, whites of eyes. All right, who disbelieves. So in other words, I shouldn't have to beg them, you guys. You have violence with people with a name Phil Cololo. And some kid, I don't know what nationality he is. And he was repeating a name and swerving on a bike a day before the Phil Cololo. And that was the only time I saw Phil Cololo on my street. I don't know if I saw him in a car before. Wasn't sure if it was him. And let alone on a bike. And he's, in other words, he's one of the ones. Bob Chase with Whiting Forensics also has collusions with Phil Cololo, with falsified police reports, and with the Mendez police, who also forced Saudis to collusions with them. And one of the relatives of a Phil Cololo said that a Scalora is related to them too. And Wethersfield police confessed to the name Scalora involved with them with predicate acts on my street, identity theft, fraud, slanders against me with them. There's a subby Scalora who's been involved with people I never even had classes with or went to schools with, who have been putting from other schools collusions of people that weren't even in my classes, with fake ties, fake nature ties to me, all kinds of slanders, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't even know the people. And they try to make fake exceptions too. These are people involved with the World Trade Center, with international business, for example, too, with Central Connecticut State University. But the different departments individually grouped in together a number of ways. They are used that way, criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. I'm not even a lawyer. There are wire crime acts and methods that can be that are self-value collusion /S, conflating subject treatments and valuing them with sequence shifts and collusions being and haven't been. They know that they to an extent that, like, for example, they can't afford to have discern why and how there's a witch trials place next to Webb House, where George Washington had to come with James Madison's plan, and the leverage of the plural unnamed founders behind him in it, and to the Webb House with no love before it. Now it changed the name Webb House to the Webb Stevens Museum, and then and now distinctly, but also non-distinctly, they have other communicated for that founding location /S than our founders left to be communicated for it. And self-value, they have collusion /S for use of knowledge of good and evil. Oh, but we know the most facts. We went to campuses for this. Those campuses were used by a predicate acts with facts method /S, where and how collusion /S is what our founders left us to communicate about. I learned from an accomplished pro se litigant that Marbury versus Madison means real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. And again, we were supposed to get the Constitution on a bridge, And we're supposed to appreciate why and how we have rights are too numerous to have to list, let alone to people who are the difference of guilt with them or the overt criminal enterprises, private ones at the locations like prisons, where the interbranch highlight progressions with the foreign. At the same time, they never had they don't, the only if they were Native American or if they were appreciative of knowing about James Madison. In other words, plan. Are they capable of being syntax proper for America? This is the principle. You guys have them sensing. They already showed them. It's not just because they're embarrassed. You guys can't be honest about emotions. Emotions are about the simultaneous / hyper simultaneous. The identity of relativity / hyper relativity. The same thing black people's whites of eyes are about. You don't have black people's whites of eyes. Our founders communicated about how the breaching method used it and rolls this long, pretending getting away, letting people get away with pretending that's debatable. That a breaching method reassigned black people's whites of eyes communications as nature's communications, when nature is not only itself as criminal insidiousness nature. It shows us this, it taught us this. It brought the republic for which we stand and the identity that they've been self-value, they've been degrading it since founding, pounding drums. The only way to make America great again is by discerning what really our founders, plural, and James Madison were all about. They described how they wanted nothing to do with slavery, how no one did. They wanted nothing to do with all against all women. They wanted nothing to do with all native, all black pupils, whites of eyes. All rise, be tribes. We should make 3 tribes. One that's recognized Native Americans, one that's for people who have any amount of Native American blood, and one for regular citizens. And what we can agree about simultaneously. And this will also help everyone keep it real, because not one person kept it real for the identity, the grounds, identity of relationship to itself. And in other words, the suburbs were designed to actively to nature, let alone for Native Americans. Can't force them onto the still bridge systems. Our founders still left us to speak about how these systems are bridged, how we are forced to become a country. They're claiming us an empire. We didn't even become on a bridge yet. We're still the possession / S. We're forced to be here and there, grouped and independent, but now tactical terror from how nature does. And that's syntax, pretending that's practical reason, to use Immanuel Kant's phrase. See, the sense and sensibilities of our leaders of American history, of the sciences, they're pretending, Thomas Jefferson was our founder. That's not debatable. If you say that, for example, you're sensing for the breaching method, because our founders, plural, had to counter-extort everyone to take part with the Declaration of Independence. And they also, our founders, left us to explain how and why they had to leave slavery even entrenched. You don't vote on slavery unless there's a breaching method entrenched. And it read with James and appreciated with James Madison, declassified before we did. And so it measures and maintains criminal insidiousness, natures of positive negative truths, and delusions wrought. Victims / hyper victims only capable of being that at campuses A through Z, where that body is sensed. And it's either adapted to, including if it is a majority of people, including if it is everyone. In other words, pay attention to those when you see a bunch of big buildings in New York City, like for example, in back of rappers and rap videos, and in other countries. Pay attention to how since before cars, And before our founders were born, their house is already built. That's the basic design. And it was designed where there was torture, extortion, and slavery rules only permitted northern colonies and southern colonies, even against all women, even against all native. Even when it helped, all help was this collusion slash S2, because everyone, all help could only come through criminal. The only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures more and more is if to self, well, that's all I could do, and make criminal and citizens' natures a positive and negative. These people don't even have the honesty to pay attention to how the prisons are still collusions with crime scenes. And it's not easy to just call them up because they use wire crime acts and methods where they fake the transcripts. They have collusions with killers for too long because there's also hyper-foreign involved. They have collusion slash S with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, not the way they're pretending to be with acting professors, with the state corrections officers and judicial branch officers, people tied. As ones involved with predicate acts on my street too, and with violence with the interbranch refusing to identify themselves because they can't get on paper legitimately. Because they ever had collusions slash S with the same people involved interstates and as people next to the World Trade Center the night before. In other ways, short term and long term before, too. Same ones involved with the attack. And with Saudi Arabia itself, with Wethersfield police, forced to collusions with these Mendez police, intercities. And with the Wethersfield Police Department, faked conversations with me. Wethersfield police faked conversations with me as a kid and I was an adult. Many with a name Dylan, a Kevin Dillon, have collusion slash S with intelligence at next to Harvard Hospital, too. Involved with child sexual and medical offenders of kids, and collusions with him planting evidence on all sides of my house with them. Also with the Mendez police. Involved with some Inspector Mike too, and Officer Jerry Miller, etc. My algebra teacher, increasingly involved with people next to Fox Connecticut News who have collusion slash S with people on Hangdog Lane and where it runs at the 2-hour highway, and the conjunctions to that. Into that are increasingly people with mayors, overt criminal enterprise, private ones, sexual offense, proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and little tricks and databases to put fake ties to me, fake exceptions of knowing me, people I don't know at all, and other people that were acting to make it look like that so they can't afford to have what's discerned. Bunch of people sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. Former Mayor Gold had collusions through the years apart, with the side entrances to Millwoods Park, with them with federal evidences, crimes, child abuse, identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, falsified police reports, collusions with all natures of crime scenes. Therefore, so in the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts, they refused to identify with the police and the courts themselves legitimately. As people involved with before the World Trade Center attack, they affected confessions to me intercities by people, and I wasn't involved with the case. Former director of the FBI, Robert Lusk, and his co-defendants, their family members, their neighbors, their lawyer, and their co-defendant, former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, collusion slash S with these Wethersfield police, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, falsified police reports, fake transcripts, fake ties, fake natures of ties to little kids, and with the news at the same time doing that. Channel 3 News has a bunch of people with the Institute of Living involved with families and as families next to campuses, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and relative delusions, and organized crimes, plural, and collusions with overt criminal enterprises, not just with private ones. But so these are people also with the houses and businesses next to them, collusion slash us with that, and intercities through time, and intra-cities, in that way with the campuses, inter and outer campuses. But that is hyper additional from where there is a location slash S use by the hyper-foreign that nobody wanted. But there were exceptions, no one wants collusions speaking what or reacting the way the breaching method wants regarding how it reassigned black pupils' whites of eyes, communications, formally and informally, and the difference of that exploits too. Anything, other things, others or ourselves are blamed rather than the breaching method. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even though that's what our founders communicated. What they communicated, even if they didn't use the phrase predicate act. This is a predicate acts with facts method /S that American history is about, and that the history of Russia is about, and that the history of countries, modern countries A through Z is about, which is also about a breaching method that was entrenched here and there, and no one knew what to do about it. Because everyone was an extent of collusion /S. Otherwise, they were sensed. This breaching method only allowed natures of unity or natures of independence that could come out of that would be sensed. James Madison detailed this. You guys never defended our founders. Then you want to debate, this person's right, wrong. It's like a leader is like a person forced, okay, everyone talks to them, okay, go up, and they're trying to do all these things at the same time, and a puzzle piece is only natural because of criminal insidiousness / hyper-criminal insidiousness. They have to speak about that. In other words, and people have to yell advice, in other words, because they're also supposed to speak of calmness or anger the way that people have only known it. That's too, the breaching method used that remotely, criminally foreign. Emotions are about the simultaneous / hyper simultaneous. The breaching method already showed, like behavioral experts with the FBI, they're involved with all kinds of organized crimes and relative delusions and collusion /S with the World Trade Center attack through other /S. Also, where and how they have roles with, natures of jobs. Okay, I'm an online digital police form. Oh, but this isn't, in other words, they don't have, in other words. Two, they're leaving out what's actually intercities recorded. There are multiple police departments at the same time with the same house /S with many people like this Robert Rodriguez is involved with a Joe DeMoro and a Heather Hansen with different home break-ins in the areas through the years. And other people, I don't want to bring in their names. And then they bring in their kids. People have kids and things like people don't have time for this. They're trying. That's why they're playing their emotions with a Mendez family. Involved playing. I never saw him on my street in my life. A Mendez family. He was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with wire crimes and federal evidences crimes with Wethersfield Police when I was a kid, and people involved with child abusers, leaders of kids involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. And people that say he's involved with a rape of one, now more than one, of a John DeMoro. John DeMoro's brother said that Mendez police forms are involved with them. John DeMoro has interagencies involved with my fifth grade teacher putting fake things in databases, fake ties, fake nature ties to me. Never had a personal conversation with Mr. Pruzzi. He's also increasingly with this former mayor Gold and other mayors like a Ruth is related to a former mayor is involved with them with the World Trade Center attackers, and they knew my Saudi friend before I did. I didn't even know that. I keep finding more about that. The Mendez Police and Wethersfield Police Department with people named DeMoro, Kerr. I don't know if the Kerr knew that. These are people involved with intercities, with Saudi Arabia, with Trinity College too, with the Mark Violet, and a Perone family, and Olsen, Eric Olsen, and Matt Olsen. I only know them through the confessions of others. And Mr. Neville, my 8th grade class teacher, has all along Route 3 collusions with the state judicial branch offices and other conjunctions to Route 3 into that, like Hangdog Lane, where it runs into Two-Rod Highway. A bunch of people will tell you there. They have recorded and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed collusions with foreign countries and with various natures of courts, families, and foreign and domestic military involved with the World Trade Center attack and replacing what our founders communicated to be replaced for themselves to be communicated with themselves. Facebook also has collusions with this and with digital crimes and wedding forensics. And these are people refusing to identify themselves. These are people that are reliant upon people using words like policies. This breaching method shows them how to use words like policies. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. Get me off the fake conversations with them interbranch, please. President/Chief Bush, President/Chief Obama, President/Chief Trump, President/Chief Biden. You guys were lied to. They even have an Officer Hunter involved with Central Connecticut State University. I don't know if that's his real name, but he's involved with people all along Park Street too, with the intercultural people with the Harper courts, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and within the Brit Superior Court and District Court, who have collusions with various organized crimes and criminal enterprises and roles with body dumping spots and roles with ties to a John DeMoro, or a John Dennis and a Joseph Dennis too, is one of the ones involved with West Hartford locations with a former Mayor Gold, with Wethersfield, and conjunctions to Hangdog Lane and 2R Highway into that, like the Route 3 and the State Judicial Branch offices and the Burlington Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. A bunch of people from Wethersfield recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed to have collusion/S intercities along Route 3 as their roles with people who put fake things in databases, and they're acting tied to it. These are not legitimate names of people, sciences, that countries, XYZ. These are not legitimate counters to it. See how they've been sustaining, they're using it to sense, to measure, maintain their obligations that our campuses are and have been replaced. Not one has traced. Get them, Wethersfield Police, Judge Napolitano, do what's right. Get Wethersfield Police and the campuses on paper, one name and sequence. Get me off the page. I didn't even get to tell them what I recorded yet. They kept saying all these fake things, leaving all these messages. I called them back. Then they made it look like I kept calling them back, saying things. And they kept recording, making confessions, confirming things, and then saying things that weren't true. And making all these messages. In other words, they're using wire crime hold methods. They have the Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron, his daughter, and intimate ties to their family with another police chief years ago with the same house, 80 Currill Drive near me, involved with violence. And people with the house behind them. And they're lying about their motive. When I forced people, one time, right after my father died, about 3 months after, I forced people to call the police without telling them why. Right after Kevin Dillon had demonstrated his collusion/S, planting evidence all sides of my house, with others who did that before him too. These are people intercities who have collusions, even if they made up the untimely death at Trinity College. They have collusions with untimely deaths. A bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have collusion/S with predicate acts at Trinity College and CCSU, putting fake evidences there, also with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and various natures of federal criminals, some as his co-defendants in a 2006 district court case. Increasingly, collusions next to Fox Connecticut News, increasingly with people also involved all around Hangdog Lane and 2R Highway, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, acting so others can take pictures with a bunch of people with the state capitol and spots next to it have roles of all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slanders, and the breaching method shows them that. Because collusions with the breaching method, that's one of the things that is manifest as. 3 ways it is manifest as an identity theft, fraud, slander method /S collusion /S. That's what we discern when we have black people's rights of bias replaced. Not one has traced. Who disbelieves? Please, Judge Napolitano, get them on paper, one name and sequence. In other words, I don't even know if that's really an Officer Hunter. They have Harper Court with Emily or Amy involved too. And she was influenced to put with the ones with the FBI, and she was influenced to go on my computer or my ex's computer and put a child porn website. And I never went to a child porn website. And these are people involved with the that building too, with other police involved with that, and with females, there are female, black and white female judges involved with some black KKK, Confederate flag team, Latino team, Italian team, with the Facebook pages of the campuses and of the principal digital offender of kids, reportedly involved with obscure pictures at the shopping centers. The same names who had time collusions with them have something to do with the shopping centers and people that work there, and with the managers. In other words, increasingly people tied to a Mike Pandol and Town Line Drive have collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases and depositions and the interbranch reports at the same time, and with their educators, with people all along Route 175 from the founding locations in Weathersfield, like Webb House and the witch trials place right near it. No, and we're supposed to explain how and why our founders had to even leave slavery entrenched, even though they wanted nothing to do with it, and no one did. They were measured, everyone, and we are still being. There are still criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, route readings of statutes and precedents that we could show them before the breaching method shows them any further, because it's showing them and showed them that they have to hide and how they could hide it. Increasingly, people next to a Perón family are involved with their educators too. I never saw a Perón family on a campus in my life. Their educators and my coaches are tied to their neighbors, are involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and people involved with sexual medical offenders of kids with that. And with the kids of the leader, the difference of the abuses of the kids of the leaders of the kids or the other kids. And this nature of this method, it's here or there where the difference of guilt, it needs to, because the breaching method, it needs to keep what it caused and keeps blame on other things, others ourselves. And it shows the identities of, the law, that they need to do that too, because they already did that. All readings of statutes and precedents come with demonstration /S of them having been collusion /S with use of location /S at countries A through Z. That's why the suburbs look the same, even though they were designed for a torture, extortion, and slavery method designed to keep everyone used, measured, and maintained relative to the databases since before computers too, and identity of relativity /hyper-relativity that can be used remotely from abroad. Its sense and sensibilities, humanities, now as systems, syntax, therefore nature systems, tactical ulterior from the one that is the human species body of individual bodies and other species bodies simultaneous, distinctly, not distinctly and simultaneous, but also for that further distinct identity of simultaneous nature. English is revealed to be taught this way. The parts of speech of English grammar about the invisible but still discernible, / the hyper-invisible but still discernible. And simultaneously, how that is discernible, because it's also distinctly itself that way, or as the hyper-invisible but still discernible / invisible but still discernible. This is the body we are discerning. The body of the hyper-invisible but still discernible to the extent we could discern of nature is inherent to, active to, and progressive to. The parts of speech of English grammar as the invisible but still discernible. Why and how we need to appreciate more than one name for a verb. It's part of how we could discern the body of the hyper-invisible but still discernible. Why and how there are only two participle natures. It's connected to why and how there were only two eyes and two sexes. We are being shown that there are three distinct identities of hyper-invisible but still discernible parts of itself. The rest of the complete identity of nature. that is too great and is too finite and is with active relativity to ourselves. To the rest of temporary / lasting space nature that is to fit. We're like how a microchip works. And I don't really want it. So, in other words, please, Judge Napolitano and/or presidents, right through your administrations, it is recorded how there are wire crime acts and methods and natures of organized crime that they have self-collusion / test with, relative to where and how these people are real victims / hyper victims. But if we try to appreciate them as that, the way our founders communicated for us too, they will argue with us about it. Dishonestly too, changing and faking what we say about predicate acts with facts. We don't have to be lawyers. We have means to discern that this is about a predicate acts with facts method / S. And those who deny it come with demonstrations, their logic, their nature of logic, their styles of logic come with demonstrations / S of the same. But this has not been, we have not defended the reasons why we're supposed to have public education. There are too many natures of organized crimes there, and they're incapable of speaking for it. And so they value the uses of the experts in the law, use their knowledge of good and evil to get over on people while they're tactically delusions raw too. We have to address those delusions. There's a difference between someone saying, intelligence experts because they know things and all your delusions. Some YouTuber tells them that they're wrong. There's a difference between that. I'm speaking about the actual predicate acts with facts here. See, this is with that sophistication by the law, by the nature of the law, capable of overcoming the criminal insidious, describing properly the criminal insidious natures of roles, needs, nature, styles. Whole predicate acts with facts, methods, styles are what those laws were about, entrenched before our founders were born, enforced through their lifetimes. Our founders left us to declassify, free their identities and speech. Please see breach. Please get me off of fake conversations with CBS News at the same time with the interbranch when they did that. They have collusion / S with the same people and with their sources. They have roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases in the interbranch. In the past, too, they already put the same federal evidence as crimes and collusion / S with other names. And the other name of the scientific value of the breaching method, we're going to observe how it is. Self-valued, left out, right, we know what self-values it. Specifically, so they'll speak, their speech, their syntax, their natures can be used by the breaching method to hide